What's going on, everybody? This is Gen716 back here again, and today I want to talk to you guys about why the NCAA should be worried about the XFL in the future, right? For these up and coming years. Because I look at the XFL and I look at it as an opportunity, not just as a second pro league, but a league that is trying to potentially compete with the NFL somewhere down the line in the future, right? The next 2 to 3 years, not so, but maybe way down the line, I think that the XFL will potentially compete with the NFL. And a huge stepping stone that they can do, that they can pull out, is by simply going to the high school route and pulling these 5 and 4-star recruit players and getting them into the XFL. Right? If you look at college basketball, for a perfect example, it doesn't happen all the time, but we could potentially see this. James Wiseman as a perfect example. I'm going to use him as a perfect example. He was the number 1 overall player, number 1 overall prospect, projected top 3, number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, whatever mock draft you look at. But you saw the situation that he was in Memphis, right? He was in a financial situation with him and his family. Penny Hardaway offered him a way out that they thought would be in the rules of, that the NCAA instilled. They pulled him away, and all of a sudden, fans are paying attention. Fans are hyped as ever, and James Wiseman, we saw him play 3 games, and of course the suspension came. James Wiseman got suspended until I think around January. He decided, you know what, this is not fair. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just going to forgo this season. I think 3 games are enough to prove scouts wrong. I've been projected as a top 3 pick since I was in high school. I'm going to go to the NBA draft. And if he gets drafted in the top 3, then I think that's just only going to make the NCAA just look a lot worse, in my opinion. You look at guys like Lamell Bah and RG Hampton. Those are players that off to, instead of going to college, go to the NBL. And I think that's a route that you're going to start seeing a lot from these players. A lot of these top players, I think, will forgo college, because what does college really do for you? They don't pay you. Of course, you're there, so you're going to get exposure. You're going to be playing against some really, really good competition. But in low-tier colleges, like let's say D2 or D3, you're rarely going to get that exposure. It's not until you really get into the combines, or if you have a better film tape that can get you that exposure. But that's just rarely, right? It's not really until pro days and combines that you can really start exposing yourself as an athlete. So when I look at the XFL as an opportunity, right, it's in February. The season doesn't end until April. And after that, and the draft doesn't really start until late April, around early May, which, by the way, XFL players are actually eligible for the NFL draft pool, right? I think there's one guy, Kenny Robinson. He's actually eligible. He's in the XFL right now, and he's balling for the St. Louis Battlehawks. He is eligible for the NFL draft pool this year, and if he can get drafted, I think that can open doors to endless amount of possibilities. And if you look at some of again, just like going back to James Wiseman, a guy that was in a financial situation, he could potentially he could have went pro actually for about a year. He could have went pro, could have earned around 100 to 200 grand, help out his family, but still not really getting into trouble. You don't got to do it the NCAA. You can work. You are working. You're earning financial stability for your family, and you're still going to be a top 3 or number 1 overall draft prospect. Matter of fact, you might actually boost your stock because you're playing against professional players. The XFL is full of professional players, right? I know there's going to be people that's going to dog the XFL, but these are guys that are former All-American players. You have some, right, all SEC or all Big Ten or all conference players, right? These are award winners. These are guys that had success in the NFL for a little bit or have made it to that level. And so, yeah, my point is, again, the XFL, it's full of professional players. And that much experience, that much insight, especially at the coaching level, where a lot of these coaches are former NFL coaches, high-tier college football coaches like Bob Stoops, some of the best coordinators that the game has had to offer, guys like Mark Trestman. You can't get that experience really at the collegiate level, right? You really can't get that much experience at the collegiate level, right? Of course, there's the Alabamas, there's the Clemsons, there's the Georgias of the world, but having that professional insight, that experience, and you're around those guys 24/7, that's valuable experience, especially if you're trying to get to the NFL level. And what can we see? I can see a Trevor Lawrence, a guy that's hyped up by all of college football, or all by ESPN and Fox Sports, and those guys are covering college football, and they're hyping this player up. But he decides, you know what? I don't have the financial stability for my family. I can't really wait another 3 years in order to secure this financial stability so that I can help my family out. I'm going to go to the XFL, where they're going to offer me 200 grand, 300 grand a year for around 3 years. And by the time I'm 21, I'll be eligible for the NFL draft pool. I think that's what the XFL would do. I don't think they'll do a year. I think they'll do the same thing as the NCAA does, and I think they should do that, because at the end of the day, getting these popular, hyped up players that the entire football world knows, and getting them there and watching those guys develop for 3 or 4 years, that's going to be beneficial for both parties. It's not really going to help the NCAA, though, because you're losing that hype, you're losing that star power, and without that star power, there's not a lot of money. Now, of course, the NCAA, they're always going to make hundreds of millions or potentially billions of dollars every single year, especially in the football department, right? NCAA football, it's the most popular besides maybe March Madness, which is the NCAA for men's basketball. But NCAA, we all know college football, it's the most popular in the NCAA department. And there's always going to be stars around. But we could potentially see a lot of these 5- and 4-star players leave and go to the XFL route, especially if they feel like they need the financial stability for the next 3 to 4 years for their family. And I think while the XFL, I think it's going to get popular. I think Vince McMahon is going to find ways to get the XFL to potentially get there to that level where they're not, where they. I think they can compete with the NFL. I think they can get there at some point. But they're going to find ways, like getting these high school players, getting them trained up, of course, while the hype is still generating there, and watching them develop for the next 3 to 4 years, while they still can be eligible for the NFL draft pool. It's going to be beneficial for the NFL, and it's going to be beneficial for, of course, the XFL. So the NCAA, right, of course, we all know California, they got that right, where they can pay the players, but, it's not in every state. I think the good news is that you're starting to see these states trying to motion it. But, I think the XFL, Vince McMahon, they can capitalize off what the NCAA is not doing, at least for now. Of course, there's no motions for the NCAA right now. But the XFL, they can do it. They can actually issue it now if they wanted to. They don't really have to wait. These are high school athletes, right? They're not in college yet, so they can actually do it right now if they wanted to. So I think for Vince McMahon, I think he might implement this. And I think if it does happen, and we start to see successful stories like a Kenny Robinson, if he can have that redemption story from a guy that left the NCAA, that went to the XFL, that made over 100K so he's getting paid more than he would be as a junior in college right now, but still getting drafted in the NFL. I think that's great. And not just that, you're playing against other professional players. You're with some of the best coaches in football. And you're getting paid. I think the XFL can definitely cause trouble for the NCAA for maybe, who knows, it could be next year where this could be implemented. But this is something that the NCAA should definitely be worried about. I think players are starting to get fed up with of really struggling, especially when they're in that college route. And I think that players are just impatient now. I think players want to get paid. And it's been a debate that's been going on for a long time. And the XFL could be a way out, especially for football, especially on the football side. These players could just say, we had enough. Let's go to the XFL. Let's get paid. I think it could be trouble for the NCAA for years to come. So anyway, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Really helps out the channel a lot. Again, more XFL and future NCAA coverage in the future. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Stay safe. Have a good night. This is Gen 716. I'm out. Peace.